Okay, so let's go over how to fix a non-3D printable model and how to tell if a model is 3D printable. So we have this car model here. It's open in Cura, which is a 3D printer slicer, and you can see that it's not working correctly right now. And the way that you can tell that is that, so the whole model looks like this, but you can see that it's telling you it has errors and that it has these parts of the model that are in this kind of purplish bluish grid. And those are parts that are not going to be recognized correctly by the slicer. And so you can see here that this entire bottom part of the car that's not in red, but you can kind of see the shadow of it, that's not going to 3D print right now. And then the same with everything else that is outlined but isn't in red or yellow at all. So this is not going to print correctly at all. If you tried to 3D print this, then the printer would do it, but it would not have the result that you would want. So we want a way to be able to possibly fix this, or at least get it to be 3D printable. And the best way I've been able to find to do that is to use the software Blender. And Blender is basically a free and open source tool, so anybody can use this, download it, and use it. And in order to download it, you just basically need to go and just look up the Blender download page and then select the correct operating system for you to use. And the really nice thing about Blender, this is actually not the application of Blender usually, but it has a 3D print add-on so that you can use it in order to analyze models like this. And basically what you'll do is use it to check, and then you can also use it to clean up the model. And this comes with Blender, but you will have to go and turn on the add-on. So this is an add-on, and it won't show up here if you don't click the box. So you want to go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then look up Toolbox, and it's the 3D Print Toolbox, and you just select the little checkbox there, and it'll show up. So then, if you want to be able to analyze a model, all that you'll do is click on the model, and then it's going to give you all of this information. So I'll go over this in just a moment, but you'll check all of these things. This might take a second. This is a very detailed model. Okay, so then the big things that we want to look at here, basically these are all issues. So if these are all zeros, then the model is good. But if these are non-zero, or especially if they're high numbers like these, then that means that the model is having issues, and we want to be able to fix those. So this is the reason why the model looks like this instead of how we would like it to look. So all that we have to do now that we have the toolbox is basically tell it to clean it up. And that's this Make Manifold button here. Manifold just means that it's going to fill in all of the gaps that we saw in the slicer. So if you press the Make Manifold, I won't do it right now because this is a huge model and it will take quite a while. Most models won't take this long, but this is a very, very large model. So it'll take quite a while to actually fix it up. But that's the best tool I've been able to find to make a non-3D printable model like this one 3D printable. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to significantly improve it, and you will be able to 3D print it this way. And that's the only tool I've been able to find that actually does make it 3D printable. So the result that we're going to get after doing this looks like this. And as you can see here, this is significantly improved. So basically you have every surface of the car is going to 3D print, and this is going to be much closer to what we want. But it's definitely not perfect. So you can see things like the grill here. You can see through it. So there's some strips there that it's not quite working at. Same with the back. And then here on the windshield, it's creating this weird pattern. And what it's basically doing here is finding the gaps in the mesh that were messing up the slicer. This is what Blender is doing, what the 3D printer add-on is doing. It finds the gaps in the mesh, and then an algorithm runs through and connects them. But occasionally it will connect things like to things that are not meant to be connected. So then you end up with this geometry that is not intended, but we have successfully taken this model and made it 3D printable. So that is what we wanted to do here, and this is the best result I've been able to get so far. But the preferable way of doing this is finding a model that is designed for 3D printing in the first place. That way you don't have to go through any of this process. You can just throw it in the slicer like this one, and then you can just, you can just 3D print it immediately. You choose your settings and 3D print it immediately. And the best way to do that is basically to go and find a site that has all 3D printable models. And there are a bunch of sites out there that have all even free 3D printable models. So the most common one and the one that I use the most is Thingiverse. Some of them will have paid models, but you can see here that there are Printables, Umagine, and some others that have all free 3D printable models. So everything that you search up on these sites will be able to be 3D printed. So if you go to thingiverse.com and just go to the search bar, then you can find whatever you want. I don't think that there's a model of this specific car, unfortunately, but there will be models of many things. And just as an example, I found this little retro rocket and basically just downloaded that, put it in the slicer, and then as you can see, there's red everywhere on the model. So this is working perfectly, just right from the site. And this is what we want here. And there's absolutely nothing, there's no geometry issues or anything like that. So if I were to put this into Blender and then use the 3D Print Toolbox add-on to check this, then everything should be 0. And if there were any issues, then they're not catastrophic issues. So it's going to work. So then that's a better way to go about finding 3D models and being able to 3D print them without having to go through the whole process of fixing them and then having issues and artifacts like this from that algorithm. But if you're unable to find a model that matches and you're looking for a specific model like this Datsun 1200, which if you go to Thingiverse and look up a Datsun 1200, then you're not going to find this exact car. So there are none here, and as such you have to use this model not made for 3D printing, and this is one way to make that work, if imperfectly. Hopefully this helps.